He knocked me over. I landed on the dog bowl.
This one's wife, the real reason Harry went to see Charles. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Harry flew in to see Charles, saw him for half an hour alongside Queen Camilla, and then flew out again. He didn't see his brother, he didn't see his sister-in-law. He was in, he was out. But what compelled him to travel across the ocean, dropping more or less everything? Was it the fact that the news of the king's ailment is so serious that it merited an immediate response? Was it that Harry, plagued by guilt and the fact that he knows that he ought to support his father, deemed that it was the right thing to do, that he was driven by his emotional empathy to say to his wife, irrespective of what you might think, I must go and see my father. He is unwell. This is upsetting. This is an opportunity for him and I to talk. We have to put aside our differences when something as serious as this happens. A cancer diagnosis is serious of itself, but we don't yet know how serious it might be, whether it's life-threatening or whether it's something that can be dealt with treatment without too great a threat to the life of the king. Nevertheless, Harry, dimwit that he is, would recognise that cancer is a serious matter and it would be entirely appropriate for him to attend. Or were there more nefarious reasons that compelled the Ginger One to get on a commercial flight and jet across the Atlantic? Well, according to the Daily Express and Holly Beale and Callum Hoare, this is the real reason. This one's wife encouraged Prince Harry to go alone to see King Charles. This one's wife chose not to accompany Prince Harry on his visit to King Charles, who was recently diagnosed with cancer. I've explained to you the reason that she didn't go is that her narcissism still perceives too great a threat to control posed by the British public, members of the royal family, and the British media, and doesn't see that there is a suitable upside to outweigh all of those threats to control. Thus, she continues to evade those threats to control by staying in the United States. Instead, she stayed in California with their two children, Archie and Lilibet. Some believe that this one's wife may have felt this was a journey Harry needed to make alone. Speaking exclusively to Express.co.uk, royal expert Robert Jobson said, I think it was very wise for this one's wife to stay at home with the kids, because this is a very difficult and deeply personal moment for Prince Harry. He's got to tread on eggshells, really, when he comes back because of his book, Spare, where he insulted the late Queen and he insulted Prince William's wife, Catherine, while also calling William a bully. Jobson claims that whilst it wasn't overly damaging to the king, it doesn't mean everything's forgiven. He continued, it would have been even harder if this one's wife was with him, because she seems to have said some really awful things about the royal family, which are going to be very difficult to retract. All the stuff about racism, all the stuff about mental health, and all of these things are difficult, really, and difficult subjects. Now, she may have, from her perspective, a point, but it makes it very awkward when Harry comes back with her to sit down in a room with Kate or in a room with Camilla, and for them all be friends. So I think that really it was probably just wise because he can go in and brazen it out, as they are ultimately a blood family. Grant Harold, who previously worked as a butler for King Charles, agreed, suggesting to the New York Post, this one's wife made the decision that it was best to stay home with the children, and maybe she feels that this is something Harry has got to do alone. He added, it's his father. She's aware of the close relationship and probably encouraged him to come over. This one's wife, although, might join Prince Harry in the UK soon, according to royal expert Grant Harold. I'm sure at some point they will bring the grandchildren over. That might be part of what's being discussed. An opportunity for them to come over as a family, he said. Also, this one's wife once vowed never to return to England, says royal author, improbably named plastic-faced lickspittle, the Lieutenant Omid Scopey. He claimed that she never felt at home in the United Kingdom and that this one's wife never wants to set foot again in England. But with the recent news of King Charles's cancer diagnosis, things could change. Thus, it's suggested that this one's wife said, "Oh, this is something you need to do alone. I don't think it will help matters if I am there." I can safely tell you that she will have not said that. She would not recognise that she would pose a complete problem because she doesn't see that she's a problem. She would see it more as the other individuals would need to apologise to her, and that is what was necessary before she attends upon them. Instead, she doesn't want to go to the United Kingdom because her narcissism recognises that the royal family, the media and the public are viewed as too great a threat towards her. And thus, in the circumstances, this means that her narcissism will create a reason in her mind so that she does not attend. The narcissism is there in effect to keep her safe. It's not the case that she's immediately going to find herself being harangued by hordes of middle-aged white women throwing tomatoes at her. Rather, there's a likelihood she would be booed if she was at a public event, that the media is going to comment adversely about her, that she'll be cold-shouldered and given a withering look by certain members of the royal family, even if they bother to actually meet with her. And thus anticipating that, her narcissism says, in order to protect her, let's keep her in the United States. Thus, when the issue of Harry going to see his father arose, it wasn't the case that she said to him, "You must go, but go alone, because if I come it will cause problems." Nonsense. Her narcissism just wouldn't allow her to recognise that. Instead, more likely, she didn't want him to go, and tried to prevent him from doing so, because remember, he's in a sustained devaluation. But then, with him having decided that he has to go, hypocrite that she is, she portrays to the outside world, "Oh yes, family is important, you must go. It's right for Harry to see his father." But of course, as I've explained in earlier parts, she is part of the reason why his visit was so short. From Harry's perspective, the reason that he went was because he wanted to show support, and he does actually care about his father. Of course, he's demonstrated instances where he's failed to do so as a consequence of his own short-sightedness, dim-wittedness, and the influence of his wife. Nevertheless, she wouldn't want him to go, but will have reluctantly allowed it to happen and then made it appear that it was with her blessing for facade management. And the reason she'll have allowed him to go, because at the end of the day, she really wanted him to stop going. She probably could have compelled that to be the case. That she complained about it, made him feel guilty for going, but did so on the understanding that he went and sought to build some kind of bridge to maintain that relevance, because, of course, her narcissism recognises that she only benefits from a contact with the royal family, something which has become alarmingly obvious as her lack of talent has meant that this is her only strand left to fame. And thus, Harry went, driven by emotional empathy and concern, but was begrudgingly allowed to go by this one's wife because of the benefits that she saw that could be obtained by maintaining some form of contact with the royal family. But she wouldn't go because her narcissism would not allow that to happen. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.